Well, I'm gonna try out a new perch. Just went by on the quad. Might be a cool view down there, right on the edge of the river, up high. Check it out. Looks like a bear bed right here, I'd imagine, above all the fish. Oh, definitely one ridge trail right here. Holy shit. All game. All game on this thing. Man, now that I know what I know from experience, the only poor choice about this is with the noise of the river in the background, the wind going downhill. That means the wind's going to cross this trail going downhill. And the chances of a face-to-face with the bear goes way up. Whatever, we'll deal with it if it comes. And there is the river down below. Look at this game trail. Wow. This is an old E. Old one. Real old. All right, now, where should I do? Oh, here's a cool little perch. Oh, maybe not. It's gonna sit on the base of this tree, but it's basically straight down to your death on either side of it. That wouldn't be too cool to slip up, and I'm not the most swift person on the planet, so I won't be sitting there. Let's see, give me a second. All right. Well, if a bear comes from my left, he's going to see me. He'll see me a good 15 yards before he gets to me, but right here the trail goes straight down the bank. About 4 steps to the right. So if a bear comes up that way, we're going to have a bit of a surprise stare down with each other. Shouldn't be up here. You never know, my luck probably for sure. They should be down below looking for fish. Hopefully the river sound isn't too loud for my voice. I don't know, we'll find out in a bit. So, second day home, still way behind. Anybody out there watching this that I haven't contacted yet, apologies, but you gotta give me, I gotta get caught up, alright? I'm home. I mean, I just got home. Now, let's get it this way. We got some photographs here. I glanced at it yesterday. I don't normally, I've had a lot of people, I should say a lot, but a fair amount of people with no life at all were intent on emailing me photographs, screenshots from my videos, and they imposed face-like things on them. It's easy to tell. It's painfully easy to tell. You just blow it up, look at the pixelation where they copied and pasted it, tried to morph it in, and it's just like, good God, how can you be so lifeless? How? Right? And I never posted mine, and I blocked the people. I got this one here. I haven't had time to look into this. I probably won't. Somebody might find it interesting. Obviously, I found it interesting enough that I'll share it, all right? And the title of this that probably caught my attention was 911 Steve. 911. This video is proof that these Bigfoot materialize and dematerialize. Isn't why you can hear or see them. Proof is from your video off of June 24th, 2022, titled, I woke to 2 of them looking at me less than 15 feet from me. You were flanked by a Bigfoot. See the photos I took from your video. Video time stamped 30 seconds to 25 minutes. It caught my eye that behind you I could see distortions. It began about 20-minute mark. At 22.18 seconds, a Bigfoot materialized completely. Then it also dematerialized by the 25-minute mark. Here's some photos I took off the video. As you'll see, it's you on the right side of the video. As you can see, it began to dematerialize, and it was gone. Interesting looking photos. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm sure some of you sleuths are going to go check it out. Have I checked it out? No, I haven't. I just haven't had time. No time. I still got fish I have to cut up and process and package at home. But I just had my morning coffee, and I am going to get a bunch of voices heard first. So there you go, you guys. You want to check that out? Check it out. And let us know in the comment section below what you find, if it's actually worth it. Looks interesting, doesn't it? And it looks creepy too, right? Especially because it was me in the photo. But that is coincidentally where I've had things tossed at me. We've recorded voices across the river there, sounds. It is what it is. The shit's going on, there's no way avoiding it. So you gotta live with it, and that's my stance on it as we learn more. Alright, let's listen to this one. 16 years old, shot with a slingshot and 3 other encounters. Good day to you, Steve, and followed you for the past 2 years. You are, in my opinion, an outstanding person. You're showing true love and support for the people that know there is no return for what they have witnessed. Thanks for the kind words. I'd like to share my first encounter. I'll make it as brief as possible. 2 of my best friends and I, in grade 9, went on a camping trip in K Country, south of the #1 highway, Alberta. It was a 3-day camping trip. On the second day, we decided to take a walk around the surrounding area. We came across an old gravel pit with the south end grown over with aspen trees. It was midsummer, and as we rounded the end of the pit, there was a small hill that the tree line pressed at the top of. The 3 of us started to walk to the top, and all of a sudden, all wind and bug noise stopped. It was like we entered a vacuum. Overwhelming pressure and fear stopped us in our tracks. We didn't know what to do or which way to go. I was the one that was armed with the slingshot. I thought to send out a rock to see if I could get whatever it was to react. The pressure was on us like just before the belt came off for a whooping. I'm a very intuitive person. I have been all my life. I shot the rock where I felt the pressure most intense. I must say, that was the worst decision I had made. Whatever I pissed off sent a shock wave of a scream / growl / yowl / I don't know through my body that felt like it was going to break my bones. All of us grew a strap of yellow up our backs and turned tail and ran back the way we came. As we rounded the corner of the pit, we could see into the pit. I've never seen this before or since in my life, and I'm 53 now. Every creature that was in the crops of trees were running side by side away from that noise. I'm talking deer, coyotes, rabbits, grouse, and even mice. Needless to say, my friends opted to discontinue our camping trip. We were not followed, but in retrospect, I believe we interrupted a hunting trip for whatever that was in the bush. I've been out in the woods most of my life. That noise was not anything that was known to me, and have never heard that since. In retrospect, I can appreciate the frustration of having a stalk be interrupted by an interloper. LOL. Based on how they can read our thoughts and our hearts, maybe my innocence and purity of heart, or just being plain stupid, forwarded us forgiveness by that creature. A sense learned, my heart remains honest, true, and naive because of my devotion to Christ and our Creator. This is mostly the only reason I still walk this planet. I can relate to you, Steve, with a traumatic upbringing. Those days were quite violent, which led me to a place of bully the bully and put me into the infantry straight out of high school, as well as 35 years of a martial art that I joined directly. It was not, that was not a sport. I figured the best thing I could do to protect the ones that I love and protect the ones that are aggressors in our lives, to become mature and absolutely capable of whatever is necessary for peace and survival. If anything that will help a person on this walk of life, absolutely make connection with Christ and with God. Let them take the reins of your life and become a force of nature, tempered with the innocence of a 3-year-old. It worked for me. My old teachers, including my sergeants, have told me no matter what's happened, if you can't make a joke in the worst of times, you're not worth anything. Keep your kit together, or your shit together. Have fun and play, even when you're in the worst of it. If it isn't too much trouble, please just email me back a quick note that you got this message. I have 2 more recent encounters that may help with more puzzle pieces. God bless you and your family and extended family. My thoughts and prayers are with you all. Axel. Axel, this is your email back, my man. Okay? Obviously, I don't read these through once I copy them from the inbox onto the notes on my phone, okay? So, you heard it today, you know I got it, obviously. Yeah, chucking rocks at them doesn't seem to go over too well, right? Chucking anything back at them. But anyway, I think I'm going to have to go with my better judgment. And I basically, from past experience, I've set myself up for a possible not so cool encounter with a bear right here. So it's just like when I tell people when they're in the woods, you're going to go camping in the woods at night, make sure you camp on the low side of the trail, because the cool air, the thermals sink down at nighttime, and when the predators come across that trail, your scent's down below the trail, they don't know you're there, they walk right by you. So, the sun's up, which means the predators are typically in the cover more than they're not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave here now, because I've just set myself up. I'm being kind of irresponsible right now. I don't have a weapon with me. And the chances of a bear coming up right there about, I don't know, 12 feet to my right is really, really, really high. And I obviously know that, so what am I doing sitting here lining that up? Kind of irresponsible in a way, right? So, I'll use my better judgment, which has been acquired by experience, and I'll go find another spot to carry on. A lot of my worst grizzly bear experiences, the bad ones, have been absolutely due to being next to a river with the noise, or noise cover to cover my noise from approaching grizzly bear. And it's also been alongside a river with the wind going across or downways, right? Me walking into the wind upriver, a riding horse in thick cover like this, and next thing you know, I'm face to face with a grizzly bear. It's happened I don't know how many times. So there. We're going to move to a different spot, so I don't have to deal with some unexpected grief. So I'll be back in a minute. All right, what more of a fitting place to resume than exactly where the previous emailer figured something was behind me. So something wants to do it again, bring it on. We're here. Now, let's get some more people heard, knowledge out there that we need. And there's shit out there that people need to get off their chest, and this is the place to do it. I hope the river's not too loud in the background, so I got the camera's actually only 3, 4, 5 feet from me, so you should be able to hear me clearly. All right, now what do we got going on here? Piecing things together. Title of this one. Hi Steve, Mike here. Hope this is not too long. I've been following your videos and information you've been sharing for a few years. Back from that local BC hunting page that has now turned out mainly political the last few years. Oh, no shit, yeah, I haven't been on there in years, Mike. Saw the writing on the wall, so obviously you're probably familiar with me being the #1 mouthpiece when somebody started a thread on Sasquatch on there, right? That was entertaining. Yeah, I don't go on there, I've been on there for years. I was born and raised in Nanaimo, hunted and fished and camped all my life. 60 years on the island, now located in the Caribou the last 3. I cannot say I physically had a for sure sighting, but things are falling together after hearing all the encounters sent into you that I've read. My first experience was when I was getting firewood close to 35 years ago in the bush west of Cassidy. Mosquito Central here. I had fallen and cut a large amount of alder the night before, took what I could, then came back to get what was left in the AM before someone else found it. Got there first light with my black lab and decided to just sit and have a coffee first. The dog was laying beside me behind the truck, and he perked up and was looking at the thick bush alders and ferns everywhere. Could not see far, but I saw a very dark something that I thought was a bear back over the brush. I could hear the dry creek bed rocks shifting underfoot. So, I put the dog in the cab of the truck, grabbed my rifle as it was bear season, and went to see. I got through the thick stuff and opened onto the creek bed. Fist-sized rocks or bigger, so no tracks, but could not see anything. Then I turned back to the truck and I could not see the truck at all over the brush, and I'm 6'5" tall. It really gave me an eerie feeling, and could not understand how that was possible that I could see something when sitting on a block of wood, but could not see out when standing in the same spot. Then, 25 or 30 years after this event, I was talking to another avid hunter who's been hunting that same area with his father since he was a kid. And about the same era and time I was there, he told me about his dad, who was a senior at the time, hunting on exactly the same old spur, walking the grade, and saw what he thought was a bear, as it was very dark also along the side, 20 or so feet in the thick bush. He went in to see where the bear had gone, and same thing for him, way above his head. So, could not understand how that was possible. When the son went to pick him up in the truck, he was standing on the main road with his gun at the ready, facing that spur and timber. He did not go there again. I used to hunt what they call the Del Rio, the triangle between Chetwynd, Dawson, and Fort St. John near Hudson Hope. That's exactly where I videotaped all the sticks. My camera was spun around the next tree, where my friend heard the wood knocking, but I didn't hear it. What else? I've had probably 20 or 30 experiences emailed into me from that triangle from locals alone. Coincidentally. We're camped out moose hunting, and my buddy took one cut line, I took the other. And I got back to camp just before noon, and he showed up shortly afterwards, moving pretty quickly. He did not say a word. Went right past me and grabbed 2 beer out of the cooler, sat down, and he slammed that one, opened the other, and took a swig and looked at me and said he needs a bigger gun. He just bought himself a new .338 Win Mag for this trip. Of course, I asked why. He said, I do not know what it was, but at the very end of the cut line, he is about to cross a bushy hollow with some water running through it, and the growl like he could not have imagined possible came out of the top side of the hollow. He said he just about crapped himself and backed out as quick as he could and kept watching all around the 4 kilometers back to camp. He did not go back there and look the next day thinking might have been a grizzly, but no bear tracks could be found in the muddy spots. A couple years later, hunting Del Rio again, I was riding my ATV on an old cut line through a swamp and spotted a small moose shed. I picked it up, strapped it to my rack for camp decorations, LOL. Anyway, a couple hours later, coming back to the same spot right in the middle of the trail was another old shed stuck in the mud base first. There's no way anyone else was there. I could have seen other ATV tracks and footprints in the mud, but there it was stuck right between my tire ruts. Things that make you go, LOL. Yeah, no doubt. Again, moose hunting near Cloacut Lake in the Chilcotin, Kloakut. I hunted there a few years, always heading up before the rest of the group at least 2 to 4 days, just enjoying the country and quiet times. There's one section way back through the 3 deactivated logging slashes, and the cut like goes through a belly in big dark timber, maybe 500 meter section. Every time I went to that section alone or with the others, I would get sick to my stomach feeling. Passed through it and was okay, but coming back it was the same. Over the years it happened many times for right there. I never mentioned anything to my hunting partners, but after a few years I said to one of them how I felt every time I passed through there. And he said he felt exactly the same way, but it did not make any sense, so he never said anything either. Same area. I was ahead of them a few days. Camp set up, and during the night they rolled in when I was sleeping, and they crawled into their camper after a long drive. I saw them parked there at first light. There is an ATV time restriction, so no riding until 10 a.m. I decided to walk out the old deactivated main line from our camp for a couple of hours. I was about 1 kilometer from camp, very thick either side of the road, and lower side had all the debris was pushed off lower side, making the road. So I could not just walk down through it into the timber. I started hearing something walking along the low side in the timber. It seemed to be beside, not ahead or behind, but I would stop and listen to nothing, and walk again, and it would also. I had a very uneasy feeling, but knew if it was grizzly, it would have to get through that jumbled mess along the road edge so I'd have time to react. I kept going at a slow pace, and this continued for 20 minutes or so. It stopped. But again, I honestly never thought about what possible reason for this, other than a big animal, bear, or moose, that they do not stop and move when you do. I then said screw it and headed back for coffee, but did not hear it again. After hearing so many encounters from all your videos, things are falling in place about what it was all those different times. I've had other sightings over the I've had other things over the decades, trees coming down on the trail behind me, grouse thumping through the night, raven calls well after dark. Again, falling in place, now thanks to you and your round table. I do not get out like I did. I have pretty severe arthritis in my back, so not much walking. But still get out on the side-by-side. Not the same as hiking, but you got to do what you can while you can. Thanks so much for what you're doing, Steve. It means a lot to all of us. Your video shares are part of our daily ritual. Keep up the good work. All the best to you and Sarah Mike. Mike, appreciate you writing in, man. And especially due to the fact that it's, I know every single trail in that triangle you're talking about, and I'll guarantee I've been down the exact same cut line that you mentioned. Also, side note mention for that same area, I went there by myself after the moose season shut down, and the place is desolate. Nobody was there. Frick, I forget which creek I parked at, but I went to the end of that road, straight towards the piece, and shot a big elk back in there. But anyway, what I was going to mention was when I was camped by myself, I think about 6 different trees came down through the night, the first night, and every single time I got up to go pee, a grouse would start going off. And that was like 2, 3, 4 in the morning, right? I didn't feel scared, I didn't run, and I continued to push onward and I shot that elk. I did feel a little creeped out in the dark coming out from there one evening, but that's about it. What else can I share? Shit, I was just going to touch on something else that you shared. Oh, when you went through that timber and you felt sick to your stomach every time, man, coming back through. That's exactly what was going on when I had that, the first time I ever saw one of these things. And I don't know if you heard that story or not, but every single time I got up to the top of the mountain and I cut through that low pass, which was the top of the ridge, but it was in a dip, and the old deactivated road went right through the dip, deep shallal and big mature firs on either side, moss bluff rocks inside, both sides you couldn't see from the road. And every single time I was about to go through that pass, it made me want to puke. I was not looking forward to it. The hairs stand on end, anxiety, and I just dreaded that part of my hike going up because it was always in the dark. And then I also dreaded having to come back through that pass on my way out. Every single time, and then finally that one time, that thing screwed up and was perfectly silhouetted on the rock above me, staring at me. And that is something I can relate to you. You said about going through that timber and feeling sick each time. And I also know some friends of mine who live south of Whistler, British Columbia, where they have a spot near Daisy Lake, where exact same thing. And they have no interest in this topic, but every time they go through a little pass, which is I think a pass goes underneath the highway to Daisy Lake right there, they feel like they're getting stared at every time the dog freaks out. That's been going on for years. So go figure, right? Anyway, man, thanks for emailing in, and thanks for the kind words, supportive words, and you know that without people like you, this is nothing here, right? Alright. Alright, what do we got? More voices. Excuse me. This is titled, Them Damn Bigfoot Are Eatin', if you don't mind eating skunk. That's a different title. So after hearing all the roundtable stories you tell, and some are pretty damn funny, scary but funny, the wife and I love the show. Like the old boy and his wife down on an embankment by a river. One screams and he bolts without his wife, LOL. Just frickin' wild. How many times you would tell someone's story and my wife would comment, that sounds just like your story. Needless to say, I'm in total agreement. You see, my experience happened, I think, somewhere around the late 80s. I got a chance to go deer hunting down in southwestern Oklahoma, with a good friend Paul. Now, I was pretty much a rookie, and in fact, I had just gone and bought a Marlin 30-30 rifle the day we left. Didn't know any better. Not a bad rifle, but maybe a different selection would have been better. Now, Paul was an avid hunter and had hunted with his dad for years. He knew a guy down by Stringtown, Oklahoma that had God knows how many acres and let people hunt for $20 a head. Paul's dad had hunted deer for many years there, and so that's where we headed. On the way down there, he had told me a story of his first, or close to his first time as a young lad, with his dad sitting near the edge of a decent-sized pond. His dad kind of nudged him quietly, and Paul looked up, and on the other side was a buck. Paul slowly lifted his rifle, took aim, proceeded to use his lever action as fast as he could eject the shells. That was his buck fever moment. Now me? Sure, I'm new to this, but damned, I was somewhere around 30 years old. That wasn't going to happen to me. I'm trying to get there, so I'll briefly touch on things in between. First night, these dudes came through our camp after dark, went into the field, a ways from us, and shot something. They came back through and stopped to talk. Basically, they had shot a coon, and while they're talking, one of them had the thing by the scruff and telling us it's dead, but they can't find any blood. They run their fingers up through the fur, and no blood anywhere, not even a drop. So because I had never seen anything skinned, they decided to do it right there. Now I'm just praying the thing was dead because those were some awfully ugly teeth, and finding no blood. Well, when they went to pull the fur down from the neck area, that old neck just started stretching like a rubber band. Damned if they didn't hit it with a spotlight, and when it turned, he shot and right up the old bunghole and snapped his neck. Now that's a clean shot. Unsportsmanlike, but no mess. I won't tell the whole story, but one of those guys went to a lot of trouble getting to the scrotum to give me the pecker to make what he called nature's toothpick. Pretty cool, actually. So the next morning, Paul had a place he pointed in the direction of, so I started off in the opposite direction, heard a dune buggy through a row of trees, and knew they ruined his deer spot. Just as I turned around, a big old buck had come up out of a ravine and ran across the field while I watched, as he was too far away for me to get a shot. So I thought I would see where he goes and follow. LOL. Showed Paul where it happened, and talk about feeling stupid. Too far my ass, my God, I could have literally thrown my rifle at it and probably would have hit it. So now it's late afternoon and I took off towards the north. I come into a field of short stubby oaks, and about 200 yards I could see tall trees, so I headed over there. It was really weird. There was this little path where water ran down out of the hills when it rained, but it was only like 8 inches wide and dry. And directly on the other side were these tall trees, just kind of creepy. So I go walking through as I could see light, maybe 50 yards on the other side. When I came out, it was like, oh my God, if a buck didn't come out of that, oh my God, if a buck didn't come out of that, there ain't a God. The clearing was like in the shape of a boomerang, and right in the center of the corner, if you will, and clear short grass up to it, was this thick patch of 5-foot tall reeds, or something just beautiful. Unfortunately, the only tree was up the left side. Oh God, these bugs. But it had an old tree stand in it. So I unloaded my rifle, climbed it, and pulled it up behind me. Now in that tall forest, when I came through, almost every tree had scraped about maybe 5 feet long at the base, like something was pawing for nuts or whatever. So I'm sitting up there maybe 30, 45 minutes, and all of a sudden I hear these footsteps crunching the leaves in the forest but I can't see maybe 50 feet. Then it's all forest. It would take like 3 steps, crunch, 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 and stop. I'm so excited, and just pray a big old buck came out. About 5 minutes go by, and crunch, crunch, crunch. Step, another 5 minutes, and crunch, crunch, crunch. I'm really just, wow, come on. And think about all those marks in the leaves, and it being a deer looking for acorns, but damn. Crunch, crunch, crunch. I mean, this went on for at least an hour, and just would not come out. So here I am up in this tree, starting to get a little scared because of this bullshit crunch, crunch, crunch with those stops. It was like, okay, maybe something's stalking me. The sun's already started going down. I'm in a strange area quite away from camp. Not sure if I could find it if it got dark, and now I'm stuck up in a tree with God knows what in them woods. So I got no choice. I got to come down. So the safety rules went out the window, and I lowered my rifle fully loaded with one in the chamber. All I had to do was pull the hammer back. So with a deep breath, I hit the ground, had my rifle in hand, and pointed at the woods in a split second, just knowing something was going to come charging at me. Thank God nothing did. So I made it back to camp and told Paul about this beautiful spot, that he had a place he wanted to sit in. So 5 a.m. or so, I headed out to that tree stand. On the way, I started thinking as a rookie that I am, I never even looked for deer tracks. Going through those tall trees is still kind of creepy. But I went, and when I came into the clearing, I started searching the ground for tracks. My rifle laid across my arms as I moved forward, looking down, and all of a sudden I was like, what the hell? Even now my eyes water and the hair stands up on the back of my neck 30 years later, and has every time I tell that story. I saw this track as I was just walking, looking for little deer tracks. I frickin' wasn't looking for some shit 15 inches long and God knows how wide. I backed up a couple steps. The fear that came over me is so freaking unexplainable. Without thinking really, all I could think about was last night, that crunch, crunch, crunch. Oh my God. I had no choice, I had to move. I threw the hammer back my 30-30, walked through that Hansel and Gretel forest, walking like G.I. Joe, and if anything brown, black, or fuzzy, and it moved, it was hammer time. I can't tell you how good it felt across that little water path into short, stubby oaks. I could see now, but damned if I didn't feel like something was watching me. I got back to camp and I was reluctant, but Paul wanted to go back over there with me and see it. And I'm like, no frickin' way. Not without some serious firepower. But then he told me this is the last day and those two guys headed out earlier. We went back over there and this thing was kind of weird. The track was sunk pretty good into the soft soil, maybe 3/4 to 1 inch. It appeared to be right foot, but right in the middle of where the ball of the foot should be, just behind the big toe, there was what I call a pylon of dirt that stood straight up from the ground, yet the earth all around was compacted down. It was like some sort of an injury that put a hole in his foot. Paul took out his knife and poked it on the top, and sure enough, it was soft as hell. And just like I'd seen on TV, I could put my size 11 men's boot in it with plenty of space all around it. And the toes were real pronounced, as though it was on a run and turned on its pivot foot, sinking the front of it down into the earth. Thank God that was Sunday. I couldn't have camped another night there for shit. Unfortunately, the only way off this property was to wait for the rancher to feed his cattle twice a day, morning and late evening. Paul and I waited for 2 to 3 hours by that grate, so there was no going to town to get plaster of Paris, not to mention explaining that to the rancher. Probably tell us to get the hell off his land and don't come back. Paul has since passed, but dang, if that boy wouldn't admit to nothing every time I would tell that story at parties or whatnot. But to save my honor, I would force him, and to at that very at least admit, well, yeah, it was some kind of trap. Most people are afraid of ridicule. Not me. Most of our friends knew me to tell the truth. So it's a wonder things like this aren't figured out soon. Whew. Okay, we got through that one, my man. That was a long email. We gotta share it. And I'll guarantee you, You're not the only one to have had a reaction to a footprint in the mud like that. Who doesn't, right? Who doesn't react that way? Anyway, anything going on behind me? These mosquitoes are driving me frickin' batshit crazy. I can't read smooth, and they're biting the shit out of me. So I'm gonna cut this one a little short, and I'm gonna head back to the ranch. Maybe we'll go into the shop and fill in a few more blanks. All right? Looks like it's gonna rain too. Let's see what happens here. I gotta get going back in. And I'll be back in a few minutes. Possibly. Alright, I'll try one more here. Hopefully the sunlight detours the mosquitoes. We'll see. I don't know, here they come. There's one. I'll get through another one. Then we'll head back. I hate being indoors. I'd rather be out here, but I'm not even getting gobbled up alive. Alright, here we go. What's this one? This is titled, Many Washington Cascades Encounters. Dear Steve, I hope this email finds you well. My name is Jeff Pierce, and I live over at the moment by Mount Rainier. And yes, you can and use my name and location because I don't give an F or a flying F about what anyone thinks or about anything anybody has to say about it. I grew up in the western slopes of the Cascade Mountain Range. We moved from Iowa Des Moines area to Washington State in 1966. Just a little bit of background of where I grew up. So I was always out in the woods and used to protect the black bears from the poachers. And so the black bears were my friends. The poachers set up the traps, and then they would pour a 55-gallon drum full of apples all over the top of the bear traps. I'd be watching from the woods as soon as I heard the truck to be a couple miles away, because at the time you can hear a long ways on the concrete roads, thump, 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 as the cars go down the road. I would snap the traps and take them and drag them down to what I thought was a bottomless peat bog. It was next to Patterson Creek, where I fished growing up as a kid. My first encounter, I was 14 years old, and I was riding my 10-speed up the road called Tolt Hill. I was about 3/4 of the way to the top, and it came around a hairpin corner, and I'm pushing my bike because the road's really steep, and I hear something running down a fire road. I turn to my right, and there is this effing thing. I don't know what it was. It wasn't a Sasquatch. I can still see it right now in my mind. Now, I've seen big black bear, and this is no bear. It had the body of, I want to say, almost like a brown or grizzly. But it had a wolf head. I mean, a wolf-looking head. It wasn't like a wolf's head, it just looked like an effing wolf. It had really big long canines, and it was running towards me, full bore, snapping its teeth. And I mean, it was coming to kill me. I knew it up and scared the shit out of me. I'm scared to even write about it. It had black eyes, silver hair with black tips on the end of the hairs. In the hair was flowing. So if we like it just flowed like it was in the wind at all, it's long. I just remember being silver with black tips in the hair, and I want to say it was about 600 or 700 pounds, and it wanted me for dinner or breakfast. It was actually 7 o'clock in the morning. Okay, there's no punctuation, you guys. None. Be patient. I rode my 10-speed around. I whirled my 10-speed around, and I started running back down the hill, pushing my bike, and I jumped on it. And I put it in 10th gear as quick as I could to get it in there, and pedaled my effing ass off. I could hear its nails or claws, more like clattering on the ground on the pavement as it was running behind me. I never looked back. I heard it for a moment, and then I was going faster than it could go, obviously, and then I didn't hear it anymore. Because I'm telling you, Willis, if it would have caught me, I would be dead. I just knew it, and that was the scariest thing I've ever had happen to me in the woods. It was snarling and snapping, and I don't know if anybody else has ever seen anything like this, but if you have, please let me know in Washington State because I'm still trying to find out what it was to this day. And I'm 57 years old, and I had when I was 14. Fast forward to about 18 years old. Me and my girlfriend were up at Mount St. Trailhead in North Bend at the base of Mount Si, S-I, at about 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock at night, or August. I want to just say it was July or August. It was really hot out still. And we're laying in the parking lot on a blanket, and all we just wanted to be alone and make out and all that. Well, when we would start making out or talking or whispering, I kept hearing something coming up closer and closer every time we would talk. But we'd stop talking, or I would stop, and it would stop. I would talk, and whatever it would creep closer. Anyway, I whispered to my girlfriend Christine. I said, "You got to get in the car." It was pitch dark out there in the parking lot. She goes, "Why? Is it because there's some creeping up on us in the woods?" I don't know what it is. It's starting to up and scare me at this point because it's getting closer, and I know it. But can close to probably. Oh my God, this is hard. But it came close to probably 50 feet or something at this point, and a snake in the hair on my body stand up. When I talk about this one's, holy shit, you guys. All right, this is what I got to go through, all right? When I talk about this one's, it because there's some creeping up on us in the woods. I don't know what it is. It's starting to up and scare me at this point because it's getting closer. I know it. But can close. It's probably within, but can there's spells, there's typos, there's punctuation. This is brutal. Christine gets in the car, and she had her door, so she climbed into my driver's side door, passenger side. I bent down to pick up the blanket off the ground, stood up. This thing laid out in a blood curdling. It was the loudest scream, like just effing loud and long, and it was right in my face. I mean, it was right there. I mean, I don't know how long it lasted. Maybe freeze for a second, but only for a second. You know, because that encounter up in Tolt Hill, I up and jumped in my car. I have that thing to the floor, I fired up, never taken my foot off the gas, not once, dropped in reverse, rocks and shit were flying. I went from reverse for a first. I did a reverse to first, flipped the bitch in parking lot, scanned the whole area of my car as I'm whipping Brody in there, and rocks and shit. Okay, this is it. That's done. This goes twice as long. I'm sorry, and I'm sorry that I posted this up for you guys to witness, but I have to, because if you guys are going to email me, you're going to have to proofread your email. I don't have time to. I'm not the grammar Nazi. I don't have time to read these 2 or 3 times over, go through the punctuation, and do all that shit. I just don't. All right? There's too many people in line. I got too much shit on the go. And that was frustrating, right? Okay, to the original emailer. Redo your shit, send it in again, and I'll read it smoothly, all right? Let's get another one read. That was frickin' brutal. Normally I cut the shit out, but I'm not gonna this time. I'm gonna take you guys in the same ride I gotta go through, because we're all on the same team, the same table, and we're all equal, and this is just a fact of what happens sometimes. Let's get on with this one. Let's see what we got coming with this one. Can we read it? There we go. Ongoing on our farm up to March 2022. Hello Steve, I'm a farmer in my early 70s, and I decided to tell you what's happened to us on our farm. After watching your videos for a couple of years, I may have come up with some answers to what has happened to us that we could not explain. I'm telling this so that maybe it will help someone else. Right on, man. Appreciate that. About 25 years ago, I would cut firewood and stay the night alone in a converted school bus, since it was far from home. One night in February '96, I was awakened by what sounded like a police whistle blown nearby out in the timber. It must have lasted 30 seconds or more. No other noises after that night at that location. 3 years later, at the same location, what smelled like a wet dog came nearby in the middle of the night. I yelled at it to leave, and it must have left because the smell was gone. On our farm, we had an apple tree in the backyard. It would only produce about once every couple of years. One year, I think in 2017, it was loaded with apples. We got up in the morning to pick apples, and every one of the apples was gone. Our home sits on a drive about 1,000 feet off the highway and can't be seen. This tree was at least 12 feet tall and 16 feet across. It would have had bushes of fruit on it. We didn't get any that year. In 2018, we moved about 100 miles south, still in the heart of the Ozark Mountains of Missouri. We had a home built that would be good for an older couple to move around in. We also had a new barn built that year. This time we're about 800 feet away from the highway, out in a pasture with timber and many trees nearby. Many mornings I would walk to the barn and hear something smacking trees out in the timber near my barn. Back then I had no idea what that could have been. In the summer of 21, around 10:30 p.m., with the windows open, we heard a whoop very near our front porch. My wife said, "What was that?" I'd watched enough of your videos by then to tell her what I thought it was. In the fall of 21, with the screen door open in my bedroom about 2 a.m., something out near our porch yelled out, "Joe," about 3 times. Our dog, that would really sound off when someone gets near our home, only remained quiet. That's interesting. In January 22, at about 12:30 a.m., something was whistling an unknown tune out in the yard. This went on for at least a minute or so. Another night, in January 22, I was awakened by loud whistling in the yard. Steve, it made my stomach knot up and my skin goosebump. I've had a bad appendix operated on years ago, and the pain was worse than the infected appendix. My dog only whimpered. In March 22, I awakened in the night to hear voices talking nearby. There wasn't any language that I know of. Again, the dog was silent. This morning, March 19th, 2022, my wife went out to the garden in her backyard. I had spread fertilizer on it and worked it up the day before. On the grass near the garden was a dead rabbit. It had no marks on it that we could tell, but did feel flattened some. Our dog would only sniff at it. Maybe it was left as a trade for what would come later from our garden. I'll continue keeping a journal of all these happenings. So after some more things happening, if you want, I'll write again. Watching your videos is sort of like going to school again. I appreciate all the effort and expense that you invest. Use my name if you want. It's Don Lodgeston. Sorry, with a D. God bless and be careful out there. Don, you be careful out there, man. Sounds like whatever's there doesn't mean you any harm, and they're just hanging out and existing. That's a fish jumping. For anybody that thinks I got something thrown at me, it wasn't. And I don't envy you. I don't need that shit. I mean, I got shit going around here anyway, but I just want to go home and live in peace. I don't want to have to be woken up by strange language outside my bedroom window or the porch or whistling or banging on the walls. Not into it, right? But I want to know the truth. I want to know all the truths of what's going on. River's is low. Just need to warm up a little bit, then I'm going to swim this river and see if I can find my GoPro that I snapped off my fishing rod back when it was too cold and too fast. See the sockeye still jumping in the back. I don't know if any bears might be behind me. I guess we'll know later on. I don't know where the bears are. Last year this time they were absolutely everywhere, but I'm not seeing any yet. I should probably put my trail cameras out around that whole basin there like I did last year and see what comes. But anyways, Don, be careful, man. And make sure you speak honestly with all of your family and or visitors who stay overnight or whatever. Just be honest, man. Just tell everybody the honest truth what's going on. At least then you did, right? In case somebody unfortunately has a face-to-face bump into one of these things walking around the back of the barn or whatever. Because if they do, and they find out that you knew something was up and you didn't share with them, they're going to be really pissed, right? I would be. So try to be honest and tell everybody what's going on, man. And that goes for everybody else out there listening too. Just be honest. Just be honest. It's easy. Tell the truth. Don't be scared of the truth. Don't be scared of people. Just quit being scared. Tell the truth. There we go. What was that? 3 different places in one video. That's a different one, isn't it? Gotta go home, back to fencing. Here we go. And I will probably share again from the shop. This weather's not going to be too conducive to me hanging out here, so be safe out there and keep emailing me in what you need to email.